It's a beautiful day that unites some patriots. Timestamp and gap code part 1. We have 3 parts to this code. There's the timestamp, there's the gap, and there's the code. I'm going to just explain to you as much detail as possible, and I'm going to talk about each one of these 3 parts on its own, and at the end we're going to put everything together and see how it all works out. So you guys, let's have fun. Part 1. Timestamps. When a tweet gets posted, there's a timestamp. And here's the tricky part. If you get what I'm saying right now, you're going to get the rest of it, okay? Just hang on for a few pages. No one really can say when a tweet was posted because of local time zones. So if I post a tweet right now at 12 o'clock noon, people in London are going to see one timestamp, say, let's say 10 hours forward because of the, our 24-hour times. Follow along with me, thank you. So it's going to be forward or reverse, it doesn't matter. And then the people in Japan are going to see a different timestamp, and it's going to be the opposite, either reverse or forward. It really doesn't matter. All we want you to do is see a number, right? So if I see at noon, London sees it at 10 p.m., Japan sees it at 2 a.m., everybody's on the same day. Cool. Still confusing, but that's how it works. So if a tweet is sent out at 6 o'clock a.m. at New York, Los Angeles will see that same tweet at 3 a.m. If a tweet is sent, say, at 10 p.m. in Los Angeles, New York will see a timestamp of 1 a.m. the next day. Are you with me, right? This is easy, right? Even though this timestamp in LA was a Friday before midnight, New York sees it Saturday. Okay, you know what's not easy after all this? Is us all fighting about screenshots, trying to prove when was the tweet sent, or the photo that's in the tweet. Doesn't even matter. Who cares? Super confusing, huh? Of course it is. Twitter didn't want us to really be able to follow along. Is Twitter for you? Come on now, really? For us, the little people? No. We have to fight for all our scraps, even in Scrapper. How do they control people? They keep them confused. Okay, we're all confused about all this. You see what I'm talking about? This is very confusing stuff, but it shouldn't be. Now, how can we prove when it was really taken? I don't really think we can. And it's not important, my friends. It's not important. 5 by 5. It's not important. Hang on now. All this to say it's not important? Well, it's confusing with the timestamp problems, right? So let's forget about the timestamps, okay? I don't know, hang on. If I tweet 2 tweets in New York, one at 12 noon and one at 1 p.m., we will see the timestamp in Los Angeles at, first one at 9 a.m., second one at 10 a.m., right? Same concept, just 2 different tweets instead of 1 now. And the reverse example, LA sends one at 11 p.m. and one at midnight. New York will see it at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. the next day, right? I mean, same example, just 2 tweets. So who can make heads or tails with all this going on? I know you say it's easy because of math. All we have to do is take the timestamps and then do the time zones and minus and forward. Well, go ahead, it doesn't matter. Do all the math, it just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, do you know what never changed? Is the gap in between the 2 tweets. The 1 hour, the gap between the 2 tweets. Who can prove this wrong? All over the world, no matter what time you post a tweet, and the time you post the next tweet never changes. Now, people can delete a tweet, so maybe never really know unless you're watching the page. You know what I'm saying, right? I can sit in that tweet and then delete it, and if you were there, you saw it, and if you didn't, you didn't. So, do you know anyone famous who loves to tweet? Do you know anyone who deletes a lot of tweets? Do you know anyone who misspells words? Do a lot of people talk about this person's tweets 24/7? How about everyone? Have you ever wondered if he is trying to send a message? Well, I do sometimes, and I think others do too. What's the one thing that doesn't change on this person's timestamps tweets no matter where in the world you are? Huh? Right? So I get the idea. My light bulb, my brain, wow. So if I have a code, I might be able to use the 24-hour clock's numbers to send a message. What never changes in between the two tweets no matter where you are in the world. So we've got an established timeline. Wow, so let's go. Remember, timestamp and gap code. You want to know any more? Like I said on page 1, if you get to this part, you're really going to understand the rest of this. This is really easy now, okay? Moving on. Good job, you guys. Okay, so part 1, do a little quick little fresher. So we're talking about timestamps. At no point, at one point I said it's not important, the timestamps. And so at another point I said it's very important, the timestamps. How can both be true? Now just remember, I didn't write the rules. I'm just showing you what I've found and what I've discovered through the grace of God, and by Jesus is allowing me to see this stuff. Truly, all the grace to God. Because most of us have no path, so we go up and down. We have to have a path from A to B. We need a place to start and end. Have to have a point, A to B, a measuring stick, a graph, a time frame, our clock, ABCs. You know what I'm saying? These are all just examples now for us to show that we have to have some form of measuring stick that never changes. Have you ever heard of the Q clock? I wrote the Q clock, but I meant the Q drops. I've never been able to study the Q clock. I need help with this. If anybody can hook me up and we can work together, or take this information, see how it works with the Q clock. I meant to write down the Q drops. We all make mistakes. There's been a few so far. We're going to do more as we go. Have you heard of the Q clock? Could tweets and the Q clock, Q drops line up? If we use logic and if we use common sense, we are counting on you, right? Who are you? You or me? Me is you. We're counting on each other to use common sense. Do you want to help your country? Well, you must first learn what our president is trying to tell us. Learn our comms, they keep saying. Boom. But how? Well, the timestamp and gap code. Boom. Do you think it's possible? Well, hasn't Q asked us to keep watching POTUS Trump's tweets? Doesn't Q say timestamps are important? Boom. What about the gap? Boom. What about a code? Boom. Does Q say timestamps are important? Leave it up to you, man. Common sense. I don't know. What can we do? I say we like I'm part of their team, but it's because I am part of the team. So are you, man. We're Americans. We're saving ourselves. We're saving the world. We are one. I have a lot of this is very important to me. It's very important to me. So here we go, part 2. If you're here, you're going to want to know more. It's just common sense. Let's use it, right? Otherwise you're wasting your time. So we got to get a really good grip on what timestamps is all about. Who cares about the numbers? We're just going to be doing math, right? So who cares about the numbers, right? We want the gap. So we're going to talk about the code. We'll come back to the gap, but let's get to the code. Do you ever look around and see signs? Do you feel like you just can't get what's happening? Like a code that you don't understand? Top part of the page makes sense? Is there some kind of a point I'm trying to make here? You know what I'm saying? Some of the code I'm writing, I get. Some are not. Once you hook up, you got to hang on. There is a matrix, and it's being led by Jesus. It's totally up to you to understand what your brain wants to know. So, how much can be said without words? Part 2 is over. Ha, quick. The codes will pop, poop, in case I spell it wrong. They're just going to pop out at you. This part is just like part 1. Not important,